All right, guys, you are here with Dave Jose. I promise y'all the fire and the smoke that I never release. I hid this. The only people who will know about this video is Karen Fann, Josh Barnett, and her PCs that she shared it with. I know she did because she told us, and I saw the numbers go up in my YouTube channel before they stole it from me. It was a unlisted video that I hid so that none of the bad actors could see how I was teaching Karen Fann how to stop the DoJ from attacking. And I also was able to show her information that you now can use to protect and stop the evil wickedness that's happening against Donald Trump. It is 100% proof in law that nobody can beat. Watch for yourself, and we're going to see if I taught Karen Fann. You guys can ask her if I sent her this video. She's going to tell the truth. We're going to bring the real PCAPs, y'all. People tried to hide the truth about what we did with the audit, and I realized that I had to keep information from going out because there was bad actors trying to stop y'all from getting remedy. Let's check it out. Dig in. I'm going to show you the real video. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Hello, Senator Fann. I wanted to get with you again today and get you some information that you might use to make sure that you put yourself in the best position to be able to deal with the issues of the federal agencies or government interfering with the business that you have to do as a public official who has given oath to the state. Now, one thing I want to look at, and I want you to see, a lot of times the federal is looked at as this powerful, all-controlling entity that comes in and they can do whatever they wish, and that's the furthest thing from the truth. So what I want to do is I want to go through a few things with you. I want to touch again on your obligation to the people, the obligations of contract, and then I want you to look at things from a different perspective. So I want you to see the original things that the people gave the federal government power to handle. You're going to be able to see that every single bit of legislation that the federal government makes comes from this initial giving of power, if it's a righteous power. And then we're going to see how they are prohibited and what they cannot do. And so what I want to do is I want to go to Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution and read to you the powers that were given to the federal. And then we're going to break it down and look at what it is that you have the power to do and how they cannot infringe on those things and why. So let's look. All right, Article 1, Section 8. There are only a few powers that the states gave to the federal to take care of business. Let's look. The Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, excises, to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imposts, and excise shall be uniform throughout the United States. What else could they do? They could borrow money on the credit of the United States, regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with the Indian tribes. Now, you're going to find that most of the jurisdiction that the United States uses is the Commerce Clause. They will create situations where they could have power over commerce by creating bills that allow them to cause certain things an object of commerce. I'll give you some examples later. To establish a uniform rule of naturalization and uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies, right? To coin money, regulate the value thereof. Next one, to provide the punishment for counterfeiting the securities and current coin of the United States. To establish post offices. To promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. Let's move on. Now, I want you to pay very close attention here. To constitute tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court. Now, this is super important because much of what we see in the type of cases that go on in the federal are based on these inferior constitutions that have been put together by the legislature. Let me explain what I mean. When the legislature wants to create a court other than the Supreme Court, because the only court that was created in the federal by the people was the Supreme Court, we gave them permission to make lesser tribunals. So the federal courts you don't find inside of the Constitution created by the people. You find them as being created with certain legislative provisions to be able to have jurisdiction over an issue. Many times that issue comes from what they call the Commerce Clause. I'm going to give you an example of a legislative tribunal. So if you look at Title 42, Title 42 has never been passed. It is a collection of editorial texts from other past legislation. So there's positive law that has passed, for instance, like the Social Security Act. I'll give you an example so you can see how they're doing this with something that you know. I'll break it down using CPS. Okay, so to show you how this works, we're going to look at the very act that created the ability for there to be a CPS. When we look at it, we're going to see that it gives some instructions. Then what we're going to do is look at how it is used today outside of the original legislative intent. This is important because a lot of times we look at these statutes and codes that are made in the federal rather than looking at the actual fundamental law and the intent of the legislature, which allows for jurisdiction to be used outside of what it was intended. So let me show you. So real quick, we have Part A, General Provisions, Section 1101 of the Social Security Act. You can see that it's also encoded in 42 U.S.C. 1301. Now I'll show you how they take jurisdiction that does not belong to them. Look in the bottom part where it says D in small lettering. It says, and this is 1101-60 in the original legislation 1935 Social Security Act. It says, nothing in this act shall be construed as authorizing any federal official, agent, or representative in carrying out any of the provisions of this act to take charge of any child over the objection of either of the parents of such child or of the person standing in loco parentis to such child. Now, this is very deep. So Karen, the reason this is deep is because what the federal will do is they will constitute a tribunal. So they have something that seems like it's a type of court, but is legislative. Now, truly it is not a judicial entity, but they will use the fact that they constituted it to make sure that the people believe that there's a jurisdiction there and that it can trump rights. So what happens is the attorneys will bring a case based on Title 42. Title 42 never passed. They usually will not show anyone what the Social Security Act says, which is the positive law, which has standing over the administrative law. So when you bring the positive law, the things actually passed by Congress, what ends up happening is the lower level administrative law that does not apply to the people gets knocked down. Now, I'll show you this really quickly, and then I'll explain to you how this same process is what they will try to use as the federal, because in CPS courts, what they do is they create a tribunal, they throw some charges at you or say, we believe you did this. Now I want you to prove that you didn't. It's the same thing when they say, we believe that you may go against the law. We believe that, based on this Voting Rights Act, that you may go against people's rights, or this KKK Act, that you may punish the people and do wrong. So we need you to prove to us that you are not going to do wrong. That is what's called proving a negative, and it's impossible. How do you prove what you are not going to do? You see? So what they're doing is trying to get you to prove to them, allowing them into a jurisdiction, that you're not going to do something wrong, which there hasn't been any act to show any wrong. So in order to get jurisdiction under the law of the land, there must first be a crime or a wrong. They're getting you to try to defend yourself to them to keep you from doing what it is that you're supposed to do and standing on the higher law. So let me break it down real quick. Now, Karen, this is from uscode.house.gov. So this is not some fly-by-night site. Simple Google search. Watch this. A non-positive law title of the code is an editorial compilation, meaning it could be changed, of federal statutes. For example, Title 10, Armed Forces, is a positive law title because the title itself has been enacted by Congress. By contrast, Title 42, the Public Health and Welfare, is a non-positive law. So Title 42 has never been passed and is an editorial compilation, which means it's actually not the law. The positive law is the law. So they will gain jurisdiction by something that is not a law. So Karen, this is important because if you're going to be dealing with cases and be dealing with attorneys, you need to realize what is your highest standing and jurisdiction that you could possibly be on. Now, I'm going to show you in their own words really quickly how they will try to steal jurisdiction, but give you remedy by putting it in a place what you can do to get out of the jurisdiction. But if you don't know, they don't tell you. So we have to look at what your highest jurisdiction is and your highest power is. But let me show you where they tell you how to get out. So look at the middle of the page. This is the difference between positive and non-positive law. The distinction is legally significant. Non-positive law titles are prima facie evidence of the law, but positive law titles constitute legal evidence of the law in all federal and state courts. So if you bring in the positive law, it stands as the law. But remember, we're just dealing with statutes, but even in the statutes, one is higher than the other. Your constitutional provisions are going to be higher than all of these. Watch this. Having on one hand non-positive law titles as prima facie evidence of the law, and on the other hand positive law titles as legal evidence of the law, means that both types of titles contain statutory text that can be presented in a federal state court as evidence of the wording of the law. Why would you bring prima facie evidence of the law when you could just bring the real law? And why would you just bring statutory law when you can actually bring your constitutional provisions, which is the highest law? Okay, so understanding all this, Karen, I want you to see that the courts will use things that are prima facie evidence that are not actually the law. So that deals with statutory text. These people are trying to get jurisdiction over you by making you tell them what you are not going to do based on statutory text from the federal that is not the actual highest law. The Constitution is going to show the highest law. So I'm going to read off the rest of the things that the United States was allowed to do by the people from the states. And then I'll go into showing you why you're going to use your constitutional protections and how to defeat anything they do. All right, so what else do we have? To define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas, to declare war, grant letters of marque, to raise and support armies, to provide and maintain a navy, to make rules for the government and regulation for land and naval forces, to provide for calling for the militia to execute laws of the Union. A lot of this is about war and protecting the people and military power and commerce. To provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia, and for governing such part of them as may be employed for service in the United States. So pay close attention that none of this said remove rights from the people, power from the people, interfere with the business of the states or the people in the states. Okay, so to provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia and for governing such part of them as may be employed in the service of the United States, reserving to the states respectively the appointment of the officers and the authority of training the militia according to the discipline prescribed by Congress. So the states still kept some powers even with that. To exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district not exceeding 10 square miles. So a lot of the statute that you're going to see is literally for DC only, and they're extending the jurisdiction by jurisdiction tricks. So I'm going to show you what you need to do with the law now. Okay, Article 1, Section 9, there are prohibitions for the United States. So if we look in the middle, it says, no bill of attainder or ex post facto law shall be passed. Now, one way that they create bills of attainder is by saying, no, any person who does this or that shall be guilty of. It's kind of like ARS 26317, when they say no person shall do this or that. And then what happens is they declare that people are the persons they're talking about without explaining that the people have protections in the Constitution that cannot be ran over. This is why they're using legislative tribunals to get the jurisdiction in a way that is wrong. Now, you have an obligation to the people. So what you have to use is that obligation to stand on to block their attacks. First of all, the contract you have with the people, the Constitution, is mandatory. Look at Section 32. The provisions of this Constitution are mandatory unless by express words are declared to be otherwise. So you don't have the choice to go back on your oath to the people, and this is your relationship based on the law of the land. Notice that you never gave permission to the government to interfere with what you have to do for the people. Text of Section 33, Reservation of Rights. Let's see this. The enumeration in this Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny others retained by the people. So the people left it open to make sure that even if there's other rights not listed, they still reserve them. And remember, we never gave the federal government the power to interfere with the rights of the people of the state. Even in Section 2, these are all the declarations of rights of Arizona. All political power is inherent in the people, and governments derive their just power from the consent of the governed and are established to protect and maintain individual rights. If you should ever stop people from expressing what their rights are to you, what you would be doing is going against their individual rights, and no government entity, including the federal, has the power to block that. Now, once again, under the common law, Section 5, right of petition and assembly, the right of petition and of the people, right? Peaceably to assemble for the common good shall never be abridged. When you look at the status of the people, you have a duty and obligation that is higher than anything else. If you notice the statutes that you guys write that prohibit things, you will notice that it says no person shall, 26317. That any person who refuses to follow a lawful order can get a Class 1 misdemeanor. But then it tells you that any private organization or member, which are the people, any one of them, that law does not apply to. So when you look at the right of assembly and petition for the people have a right to petition you in the legislature and say, we have this problem, Karen. We need you to help us. We need you to take care of this for us. We put you in there to make laws and to look into the matters that we have. So this can never be abridged. The federal, you have to understand, was never given authority to abridge the rights of the people. In all of the Article 1, Section 8 that we went through, you could not find one thing that allowed them to interfere with the business of the people in the state. Nothing allowed them to trample the rights of the people in the state. They don't have that authority. They don't have that power. And you were demanded and required to do certain things and given affidavits from the people that you can stand on and say, the people petitioned us. The people came to us. They came with remonstrance or redress or address and let us know what they desired. And we cannot abridge their right. And the federal was never given authority to abridge state rights. Okay, Karen, so in closing, I wanted you to see that the federal were only given certain responsibilities and duties to make life easier so it becomes a more perfect union. Meaning if there's war, we can send out troops easier. If there's financing or finances being exchanged or commerce, it can be handled easier. If there's issues between the states, it could be handled easier. But there was never a situation where the federal got the power to diminish the rights of the people. The state, if you look at the case Hurtado versus California, never had the power to diminish the rights of the people. Now, Karen, let me say this really quickly. I want you to realize that these people who are working in the United States, the federal government, realize that the federal government already accepted every single thing that was in the Arizona Constitution. So when they accepted Arizona into the Union, they accepted the terms of the contract between the government and the people, and they still allowed the state to come into the Union. So everything that's in the state constitution that you are to abide by, they already agreed to. So do not falter and do not fall. Jurisdiction has been flipped over where there has been many people who make a lot of money off of a lot of cases, and they have learned that they can turn the people with bills of attainder into persons and unlawfully get jurisdiction over them. And you can see clearly that with non-positive and positive law that there are people who will make cases and bring things before courts that are not the actual law or the highest standing law. And if you're not smart enough to make the right argument, they will let you lose. It is not fair. It is wrong. But the people are waking up and seeing. And so you have a responsibility. Stand strong in it. Continue to be tough. Continue to stand. Don't let the board of supervisors get away with this foolishness. They're holding the routers and different things that they told you they would give. You have the power to impeach. You can use the law. You can make a report. You can issue a warrant. Do not allow it to continue. But stand strong and be tough and do not allow wrong to be done by the federal. They don't have jurisdiction. The people told you to do something by right. They don't have the right to interfere. The power to interfere, that power is reserved by the people and the states. It cannot happen. I will catch you later. I thank you so much, Karen. I hope you have a blessed day, a blessed weekend, a blessed morning. I'm up at 3 o'clock doing this video for you now. So I pray that it reaches you well and that this gives you comfort and strength and things that you can stand on. I will catch you later. You have a blessed day. Bye-bye.